Empires, we are taught, fall with a deafening crash. But the cautionary tale of Yahoo, once a titan of the digital world, is not one of a sudden collapse. It's a story of quiet surrender. For millions, Yahoo was the internet, a gateway, a guide, and a daily habit. At the peak of the dot-com bubble, its valuation briefly rivaled industrial behemoths like Ford and General Motors combined, a testament to the perceived power of the new digital age. This story isn't about a single, fatal mistake. It is far more cautionary. This is a story of how immense power isn't lost in one grand battle, but abdicated piece by piece through a series of small hesitations that led to an erosion of relevance. It's a gradual bleeding out of ambition until only a well-known name remains to be sold off for parts. Before Google's sterile white page simplified the web into a single search box, the internet had a front door. For a vast portion of the connected world, that door was a distinctive shade of purple. The story begins in January 1994, not in a boardroom, but in a campus trailer. Two Stanford graduate students, Jerry Yang and David Philo, created a website called Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web. It wasn't a complex algorithm, it was a simple, human-edited directory. They weren't trying to build an empire, they were organizing their favorite websites, taming the digital wilderness for themselves. But in the untamed expanse of the 1990s internet, their little guide, soon renamed Yahoo, was a revelation. By the end of 1994, it had reportedly seen 1 million visits. In April 1996, the company went public, its stock price soaring on its first day. To understand Yahoo's power, you have to transport yourself back to an era when the internet was a strange and novel place. Yahoo wasn't just a search tool, it was a trusted portal. It offered a complete ecosystem: Yahoo News, Yahoo Finance, and, after a 1997 acquisition of Rocket Mail, Yahoo Mail, which became a dominant force in communication. At its zenith in early 2000, Yahoo's market valuation swelled to an astonishing $125 billion. It was a cultural and financial behemoth. Crucially, Yahoo's power didn't spring from superior technology. In a decision soaked in irony, for a crucial period beginning in 2000, Yahoo outsourced its core search function to a small, up-and-coming company, Google. Yahoo's power came from something more fundamental. It controlled attention. It was the gatekeeper for millions of users navigating a bewildering new landscape. It seemed untouchable. But as Yahoo basked in its glory, a fundamental shift was happening beneath its feet. The question was, would its leadership recognize the danger before it was too late? The beginning of the end for Yahoo started with what appeared to be a coronation. In 2001, the company appointed a new CEO, Terry Semel, a seasoned Hollywood executive from Warner Brothers. The message was clear. Semel was a media mogul, brought in to transform Yahoo from a tech company into a global media powerhouse. The focus shifted dramatically from engineering to striking content deals and building a massive ad sales force. This pivot, this reimagining of the company's soul from tech to media, was a strategic blunder of historic proportions. While Semel was chasing the dream of a media empire, he failed to recognize that the true power of the internet was not in hosting content, but in the technology of finding it. The future was search. In 2002, that very future came knocking when Yahoo had the opportunity to acquire Google. With founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin reportedly open to a sale, negotiations began. But when the asking price was believed to be around $5 billion, Semel's team balked, offering only $3 billion before walking away. In their eyes, Google was an expensive feature, not the key to the kingdom. It is now considered one of the biggest missed opportunities in corporate history. The second critical misstep came in 2006. Social networking was exploding, and Yahoo entered negotiations to purchase a burgeoning platform called the Facebook for a reported $1 billion. The deal was close to being finalized, but as Yahoo's own stock dipped, the offer was allegedly lowered to around $850 million. A confident and reportedly insulted Mark Zuckerberg walked away. In both of these pivotal moments, Yahoo's leadership revealed a fatal pattern: hesitation and a profound misunderstanding of value. They saw revolutionary platforms not as game-changing opportunities, but as overpriced expenses. The cracks were rapidly turning into deep structural fissures, and the miscalculations were about to escalate from missed opportunities to outright self-sabotage. If the Semmel era was defined by missed opportunities, the years that followed were a masterclass in self-sabotage. After Semmel was pushed out in 2007, co-founder Jerry Yang returned as CEO, just in time for the single most pivotal moment in Yahoo's painful history. In February 2008, Microsoft, desperate to challenge Google's dominance, made a stunning move. It offered to buy Yahoo outright for an incredible $44.6 billion, a massive 62% premium over its stock price. It was a golden parachute, a generous exit for a struggling company. Microsoft's CEO argued their combined assets could offer a credible alternative to Google. But in an act of breathtaking hubris, Jerry Yang and the board rejected the offer, claiming it substantially undervalued the company. This wasn't just turning down a deal, it was a public refusal of a secure future for a prideful and ultimately disastrous gamble. The decision was a colossal miscalculation. Shareholders were furious as they watched a massive payday evaporate. The timing couldn't have been worse. Shortly after, the 2008 global financial crisis hit, sending Yahoo's stock into a free fall. Microsoft's spurned offer looked less like a lowball and more like a king's ransom. Having arrogantly dismissed Microsoft's buyout, Yahoo then performed the ultimate reversal. Just 1 year later, under a new CEO, Carol Bartz, the company signed a 10-year deal to have Microsoft's search engine, Bing, power Yahoo Search. It was a quiet, deeply humiliating capitulation. The company that refused to be bought by Microsoft was now being powered by its rival's technology, a clear surrender of its own technological core. This period was marked by staggering instability. Bartz was famously fired over the phone. She was followed by an interim CEO, then by Scott Thompson, whose tenure lasted a mere 4 months. He was followed by yet another interim CEO. This constant leadership churn wasn't just a symptom of the problem, it was the engine of indecision, ensuring no coherent strategy could ever take hold. Was it a tech company? A media company? No one, least of all Yahoo itself, seemed to have any idea. This rejection of Microsoft's offer was the point of no return. To understand how power is wielded and lost in the modern world, we analyze these critical decisions every week. Subscribe to see what we uncover next. By 2012, Yahoo was on corporate life support. The board made one last, desperate bet. They hired a savior, Marissa Mayer. As Google's 20th employee and its first female engineer, Mayer was a Silicon Valley celebrity, hired to bring some of that Google magic back to the aging purple giant. Mayer launched an aggressive acquisition strategy, buying more than 50 companies. The centerpiece of this strategy was the 2013 purchase of the social media platform Tumblr for a staggering $1.1 billion in cash, with Mayer famously promising not to screw it up. Alongside acquisitions, she spearheaded a visual overhaul of the homepage and the photo-sharing site Flickr. For a fleeting moment, there was a flicker of optimism. Yahoo's stock price even rose, though much of that was attributed to its valuable stake in the Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba, not operational improvements. Ultimately, these changes proved to be cosmetic, a fresh coat of paint on a rotten foundation. The frantic acquisition spree, rather than defining a new vision, reinforced the company's decade-long identity crisis. The $1.1 billion gamble on Tumblr turned into a spectacular failure. Yahoo struggled to monetize the platform without alienating its user base, and within a few years was forced to write down its value by hundreds of millions of dollars. They had, in fact, screwed it up. Moreover, Mayer's laser focus on mobile was seen as too little, too late. The reality was that by the time she took the helm in 2012, Google and Facebook were already light years ahead, and her efforts failed to address the core problem. Yahoo no longer had a defensible advantage in any market. By 2016, the illusion of a comeback shattered. The company announced a devastating loss of $4.4 billion and plans to lay off 15% of its workforce. The final act wasn't a dramatic climax, but a somber epilogue. In 2017, what was left of the pioneering internet company, its mail service, news sites, and brand, was sold to Verizon for approximately $4.5 billion. It was a fraction of the $44.6 billion Microsoft had offered 9 years earlier and a sliver of its peak $125 billion valuation. The empire wasn't defeated. It was dismantled and sold for parts. Why did a digital empire that once defined the internet fail so completely? It wasn't a single event, but a death by 1,000 cuts. A slow dilution of power driven by a catastrophic decade-long identity crisis. For over a decade, it could not decide if it was a technology company or a media company. By attempting to be both, it mastered neither. While Google obsessively perfected search, Yahoo outsourced it. While Facebook built a global social graph, Yahoo bought and then neglected social platforms like Flickr and Tumblr. This profound lack of a clear vision, worsened by the constant churn of leadership, meant the company was always reacting to the market, never leading it. The lesson from Yahoo's quiet surrender is a stark warning for any dominant company today. When a business loses sight of its core mission, hesitates at pivotal moments, and fears cannibalizing its own success for a necessary shot at the future, it risks the same fate. The ultimate tragedy of Yahoo is not that it lost to more innovative competitors, but that, in its most critical moments, it refused to truly compete. It traded its pioneering spirit for a scattered portfolio of aging assets. The Internet's first true giant wasn't slain. It simply faded away, becoming a ghost in the very machine it helped to build, a cautionary tale about how power is lost not in a sudden bang, but in the quiet, gradual surrender of a company's own soul.